Close your eyes for a moment. Just let them close. Feel the weight of your body where it rests right now. Feel the surface beneath you, solid and still. Feel the air around you, quiet and cool. And just breathe. Slowly. No need to hold anything. No need to rush anything. You are here, you are safe, and the only thing ahead of you tonight is rest. Somewhere beneath all the noise of the day, beneath the emails and the conversations and the things you remembered and the things you forgot, there is a quieter place. A place that is ancient and calm, and has been waiting patiently for you to return to it. Tonight, I want to take you somewhere very far away. Not far in the sense of distance, though we will travel a great distance through time. Not far in the sense of effort, because tonight, no effort is required of you at all. Tonight, all you have to do is lie still, and breathe softly, and let your mind float gently through a world that existed long, long before this one. We are going back. Way, way back. Back to the beginning of things. Back to the first cities, the first laws, the first libraries, the first schools, the first stories written down on clay. Back to a place that human beings built out of nothing but river mud and determination and an extraordinary, quiet genius that changed everything. We are going to Mesopotamia. And to its greatest city, Babylon. And you don't need to know anything about history. You don't need to remember anything. You don't need to take notes or form opinions or stay alert. All you need to do is let this old world drift over you like warm, slow water. Let the sounds of it wash across your mind. Let the images form gently, softly, like drawings made in sand. Because this is a story about the very first people who sat down and decided to build something that would last. And in a quiet, strange way, everything around you tonight exists because of what they made. So settle in. Get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw relax. Let your hands uncurl. And let's go back to the beginning of the world. Before we begin, let me tell you what kind of journey this is going to be. This is not a lecture. This is not a test. Nobody is going to ask you to remember anything. Everything I tell you tonight can drift through your mind gently, like leaves floating downstream. Some of it will catch on the banks of your memory, and some of it will simply float onward, and both of those things are perfectly fine. What we are doing tonight is something that human beings have done for tens of thousands of years. We are sitting in the quiet and listening to a story about something old and wonderful. We are letting our minds travel backward, through centuries and millennia, to a time when the world was impossibly different and somehow, strangely, not so different at all. The people of ancient Mesopotamia worried about their harvests. They loved their children. They argued with their neighbors. They wrote letters to people they missed. They prayed to gods they couldn't see, hoping that something was listening. They fell asleep at night under the same stars you are lying beneath right now. They were, in almost every way that matters, people like you. We are going to drift through several quiet chapters tonight. We'll float across the great rivers that gave this civilization its name. We'll wander through the first cities ever built, enormous, buzzing, ancient places that smelled of bread and clay and incense and river mud. We'll visit the first schools, where children sat in rows and pressed tiny marks into wet clay with reeds, learning the first writing system ever invented by human hands. We'll meet some of the gods that these people worshipped, vast, strange, beautiful gods with animal heads and celestial powers and complicated feelings about humanity. We'll sit in the first courtrooms and listen to the first laws being read aloud. We'll climb the great ziggurat towers that rose like small mountains above the flat plains of ancient Iraq. And then, slowly, gradually, as the night deepens and your body grows heavier and your mind grows softer, we'll make our way into the quieter corners of this ancient world. The small gardens. The sleeping households. The stars being charted in careful silence by ancient astronomers who believed the sky held messages written just for them. And somewhere in all of that quiet and wonder, I think you'll find sleep. So let's begin. The name itself is beautiful, in a simple, descriptive way. Mesopotamia. It comes from ancient Greek. Meso meaning middle, potamos meaning river. The land in the middle of rivers. Or, as most people translate it, the land between two rivers. Those two rivers are the Tigris and the Euphrates. Say them slowly in your mind. Tigris. Euphrates. They sound almost mythological, almost like the names of gods, and in fact, to the people who lived there, they practically were. The Tigris and the Euphrates rise in the mountains of what is now eastern Turkey, and they flow southward and eastward for hundreds and hundreds of miles, curving gently, widening, carrying with them the cold snowmelt of mountains and the red sediment of ancient stone, until they reach the flat, low plains of what is now southern Iraq, where they slow down and spread out and eventually find their way to the Persian Gulf. Between those two rivers, in that broad, flat, fertile valley, something extraordinary happened. It happened slowly. Over thousands of years. Gradually, quietly, like a plant finding its way toward light. But it happened, and it changed the human story in ways so profound that we are still, even now, even tonight as you lie there in your comfortable bed in the 21st century, living in the world that those two rivers made possible. Let me tell you about the land itself, first. Because the land matters enormously here. The land is, in a very real sense, the reason everything happened. For most of human prehistory, people moved. They followed animals, followed seasons, followed water. They slept in caves and under trees and in temporary shelters made of branches and animal hides. They were nomads, or semi-nomads, always in motion, always temporary, always just passing through. But the Tigris and the Euphrates changed the calculation. Every year, when the snow melted in the mountains far to the north, the rivers flooded. And when they flooded, they spilled across the plains, depositing rich, dark sediment from the mountains, minerals and organic material that had been traveling for hundreds of miles, now settling gently into the flat ground and making it extraordinarily, almost impossibly fertile. This was soil that could grow almost anything. Barley, wheat, lentils, onions, dates from enormous palm trees that stood like ancient sentinels along the riverbanks, grapes, figs, emmer wheat, one of the oldest cultivated grains on earth, growing in tall, swaying rows in the Mesopotamian fields. The people who discovered this discovered something like paradise. Or something like a contract, perhaps. The land would give them food, more food than they could carry, more food than they could eat in a season. But in exchange, they would have to stay. They would have to invest. They would have to build canals to carry the water further inland, and dig ditches to drain the fields after the floods, and build walls to contain the overflow, and work the soil in the dry seasons so it remained soft and workable. And so they stayed. And staying is how civilization begins. The word civilization, in fact, comes from the Latin civitas, meaning city. To be civilized, in the old etymological sense, was to be a city dweller. And to be a city dweller, you first had to have a reason to stay in one place long enough to build a city. The two rivers gave them that reason. This region, roughly equivalent to what is now Iraq, with pieces of modern Syria, Kuwait, and Turkey, is sometimes called the Fertile Crescent. It forms an arc of productive, well-watered land curving from the Persian Gulf in the south, up through Mesopotamia, and around into the eastern Mediterranean coast. And for thousands of years, it was the most agriculturally productive region on Earth, the breadbasket of the ancient world, long before that phrase was applied to anywhere else. Imagine it on a quiet evening. Imagine standing on the bank of the Euphrates as the sun sets 6,000 or 7,000 years ago. The water is brown and slow and wide. Date palms stand in rows along the bank, their fronds moving very gently in the warm evening wind. The fields behind you are green and heavy with barley. Children are running along the edge of the water. Smoke from cook fires rises in thin columns from a cluster of mud brick houses just visible in the middle distance. It doesn't look like the beginning of everything, but it is. The climate of ancient Mesopotamia was not dramatically different from today, though there is evidence that the region was somewhat wetter and greener in the earliest periods of settlement than it is now. The flat southern plains, a region the ancients called Sumer, the very name of the world's first civilization, were almost entirely treeless. There was no stone here, no timber, no building material of any kind except the one thing the rivers provided in endless abundance: clay. Wet, soft, workable, extraordinary clay. The soil of Mesopotamia is clay. The riverbanks are clay. The plains are clay. And the people who settled there eventually realized that this unremarkable, ubiquitous substance was the most useful thing in the world. They made bricks from it. They pressed it into molds and dried it in the sun, and then they stacked those bricks into walls, and built walls into houses, and built houses into neighborhoods, and built neighborhoods into cities. The great cities of ancient Mesopotamia were made almost entirely of mud brick, thousands of tons of compressed, dried river clay, shaped by human hands and stacked by human effort into something magnificent. Clay became their paper, too. But we'll get to that. For now, just imagine the land. Flat. Wide. Warm. Split by those two long, generous rivers. And very, very old. The oldest human settlements in this region date back to at least 10,000 years ago, to the Neolithic period, the tail end of the Stone Age, when agriculture was just beginning and cities hadn't been dreamed of yet. But within a few thousand years, a remarkably short time in human history, those simple farming villages would grow into something the world had never seen. The first cities. Let that settle for a moment. The first cities. Not the first villages. Not the first camps, or the first marketplaces, or the first gathering spots. The first actual cities, in the full sense of the word, large, permanent, densely populated, complex, organized urban centers with economies and governments and social hierarchies and public spaces and temples and all the complicated machinery of civic life. They were born here. In the flat, river-crossed plains of southern Mesopotamia. The very first one is a place called Eridu. Eridu is believed by many archaeologists to be the oldest city in the world. It sits in the far south of Iraq, in a region that would have been on the edge of an ancient lagoon, a marshy, watery landscape where the great rivers met the sea. And it was here, perhaps around 5400 BCE, that's more than 7,000 years ago, that people began building something that looks, unmistakably, like a city. The ancient Sumerians themselves believed that Eridu was the first city. They had a document, one of the oldest literary texts in human history, called the Sumerian King List, that records a mythological time, before the flood, when kingship descended from heaven to earth. And it landed first at Eridu. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. That is a line from one of the oldest written documents in human history. Written in a language called Sumerian, a language that has no known relatives, that appeared fully formed in these river plains and then, eventually, died. A language that we can now read, after more than a century of extraordinary scholarship. And in that language, in that text, Eridu is named as the beginning. They weren't wrong. The archaeological site at Eridu contains the remains of a temple that was rebuilt at least 17 times over thousands of years, each new temple built on top of the ruins of the previous one, growing gradually taller and more elaborate as the centuries passed. By the end of this process, the accumulated layers of worship and reconstruction had created something that would become the model for the greatest architectural achievement of ancient Mesopotamia, the ziggurat. But we'll climb to the top of the ziggurat later. For now, let's stay at ground level and talk about the city that most people think of when they think of ancient Mesopotamia. The city that was, for centuries, probably the largest city on Earth. Uruk. Say it softly. Uruk. It sounds ancient, doesn't it? It is. The city of Uruk, located in what is now southern Iraq, about 250 kilometers southeast of modern Baghdad, was, at its height around 3000 BCE, home to somewhere between 40,000 and 80,000 people. Pause and let that number wash over you. 40,000 to 80,000 people. In one city. More than 5,000 years ago. At a time when most of the world's population was still living in scattered villages and hunter-gatherer camps, when most of Europe was still in the early stages of the Neolithic Revolution, when the pyramids of Egypt hadn't been built yet and Rome was millennia in the future, there was already a city in the marshes of southern Iraq with tens of thousands of inhabitants. Uruk had neighborhoods. It had specialized craftspeople, potters and weavers and metal workers and scribes. It had markets and temples and warehouses full of surplus grain. It had a massive ceremonial center called the Inanna Complex, dedicated to the goddess Inanna, the most important female deity in the Sumerian pantheon, where enormous public rituals were held and the first administrative records were kept. It had a wall. According to later tradition, the Wall of Uruk was built by the city's most famous legendary king, Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest epic poem in human history, written on clay tablets and preserved for 5,000 years in the ruins of ancient libraries, begins with a description of that wall. He built the Wall of Uruk Haven, the wall of the sacred Inanna Temple, the holy sanctuary. Look at its wall, which gleams like copper. Inspect its inner wall, the likes of which no craftsman can equal. Touch the threshold stone, it dates from ancient times. Even in that ancient text, the wall was old. Even the writers of the Epic of Gilgamesh were looking back at something from the distant past. History has always been full of people marveling at things even older than themselves. The city of Uruk was not alone. All across the southern plains of Mesopotamia, cities were growing. Nippur, the holy city, home to the chief god Enlil. Lagash and Girsu, twin cities that would eventually become a small empire of their own. Eridu, the oldest. Kish, farther north, where another dynasty of ancient kings held power. Ur, the city of the moon god, which would eventually become one of the most important cities in the ancient world and, according to the Hebrew Bible, the birthplace of Abraham. All of these cities shared a common culture, a common language, and a common set of problems. How do you feed tens of thousands of people? How do you manage the canals and irrigation systems that keep the fields green? How do you settle disputes between neighbors when the population is dense and resources are shared? How do you keep track of who owns what, who owes what, who has contributed to the collective work and who has not? These questions, these very human, very practical, very pressingly urgent questions, are what drove the next great invention: writing. This is one of the most extraordinary things in all of human history, and I want you to hear it quietly and let it settle. Somewhere around 3200 BCE, about 5,200 years ago, in the great city of Uruk, or somewhere nearby, someone pressed a reed into a piece of wet clay and made a mark. It was not an artistic mark. It was not a decorative mark. It was not a picture drawn for pleasure or for ceremony. It was an accounting mark. It was, essentially, a receipt. The very first writing in human history was bureaucratic. It was a record of grain, of beer, of livestock, of textiles exchanged, of labor owed, of workers paid. The earliest written documents we have from Mesopotamia are inventory tablets, accounting records, administrative notes, lists of things, quantities of things, transactions between people and institutions. Writing was invented because the city had gotten too big and too complex for human memory alone to manage. Think about that. The city grew so large that people needed a technology to help them keep track of things. And so they invented one. They sat down and they worked it out, gradually, over generations, with many iterations and improvements, and they created something that would eventually become the most powerful communication technology in human history. The writing system they created is called cuneiform. The name comes from the Latin word cuneus, meaning wedge. Cuneiform is a wedge-shaped script made by pressing the end of a cut reed, or stylus, into soft clay at various angles and combinations to create signs that represented words, sounds, or ideas. It doesn't look like any modern writing system. It looks almost like a bird's footprints, or like tiny abstract geometric patterns, or like a dense collection of small marks that the untrained eye would see as meaningless decoration. But it isn't decoration. It's language. It's one of the greatest inventions in human history. At first, cuneiform was entirely pictographic. Each sign was a simplified drawing of the thing it represented. A head meant head. A bowl with wavy lines meant water. A star meant sky or God. These pictures were stylized and simplified for speed. You can't draw a detailed horse every time you want to write horse, so the drawing becomes more and more schematic until eventually it's just a collection of marks that once, long ago, vaguely resembled a horse. Over centuries, cuneiform evolved from a purely pictographic system into something much more sophisticated, a system that could represent the sounds of spoken language. This meant it could write anything, not just lists and numbers, but stories, prayers, laws, letters, medical texts, mathematical problems, astronomical observations, poetry. This transition, from pictograph to phonetic script, is one of the most significant cognitive leaps in human history. And it happened in Mesopotamia, in the city-states of ancient Sumer, somewhere around 2700 BCE. Imagine what that meant. Suddenly, you could send a message across hundreds of miles. You could write down a law so that everyone could know what it was. You could record the words of a king so that future kings could read them. You could tell a story, a long, complex, beautifully written story, and preserve it in clay, where it would survive for thousands of years. They didn't miss the significance of this. They didn't take it for granted. The Sumerians believed that writing was a gift from the gods, specifically from a goddess named Nisaba, who was the deity of writing, reeds, grain, and wisdom. She was depicted holding a writing tablet and a stylus. Before scribes began their work, they would sometimes offer a prayer to Nisaba. The clay tablets themselves were remarkable objects. They were made from the soft alluvial clay of the Mesopotamian rivers, which dried hard but not too brittle. A scribe would take a lump of clay, shape it into a smooth tablet, oval or rectangular, anywhere from the size of a thumb to the size of a book, and then press their stylus into the wet surface, line by line, making their marks with practiced, efficient movements. When finished, the tablet could be left to dry in the sun, or baked in a kiln to make it harder and more permanent. The irony of history, and it is a beautiful irony, is that the tablets which survived best are those which were baked not intentionally, but accidentally, when the great libraries and cities of ancient Mesopotamia were destroyed by fire. The fires that destroyed those civilizations also fired the clay tablets, making them virtually indestructible. So the catastrophes that ended those worlds accidentally preserved their knowledge for ours. The largest collection of cuneiform tablets ever found is the Library of Ashurbanipal, a royal library at Nineveh, the capital of the ancient Assyrian Empire, assembled by a king named Ashurbanipal in the 7th century BCE. This library contained more than 30,000 clay tablets and fragments, covering everything from astronomy to medicine to mythology to law to grammar. Ashurbanipal was famously proud of being literate, a rare accomplishment among kings of his time, and he sent scribes throughout his empire to copy texts and bring them back to his library. When archaeologists discovered the ruins of this library in the 19th century CE, they found some of the most important documents in human history, including the most complete version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which had been lost to the world for more than 2,000 years. It was a story that was already ancient when Ashurbanipal collected it. Already a classic. Already something that scribes were copying because they wanted to preserve something beautiful from the past. And tonight, thousands of years later, you can still read it. The story is still there. The words pressed into the wet clay by hands that have been dust for 50 centuries, they are still readable, still comprehensible, still moving. That's what writing did. It made thought immortal. To write cuneiform, you had to learn it. And learning it took years. The cuneiform script at its most complex contained hundreds of different signs, and a fully literate scribe was expected to know most of them. This was not casual literacy. This was a specialized, demanding, years-long education, and the people who completed it were among the most valued members of ancient Mesopotamian society. The school where scribes were trained had a name. In Sumerian, it was called the Adaba, the tablet house. The Adaba was the world's first school. Not the first place where knowledge was informally passed down. That has been happening for as long as there have been human beings. But the Adaba was the first formal, institutional educational establishment in recorded history. A place specifically designed for teaching, with a curriculum, with teachers who were paid for their teaching, with students who attended regularly and completed assignments and were evaluated on their progress. They sat in rows. They had homework. They copied texts over and over until they got them right. They had a headmaster, called, in Sumerian, the school father, who was responsible for the institution. They had teachers called big brothers who supervised the students' work. Some of those students wrote about their experiences on clay tablets that survived, and reading them is like reading something from any school in any century, familiar, specific, and somehow deeply touching. One ancient text, called School Days, describes a student's typical day. He wakes up early, hurries to school, and recites his tablet from the previous day. He eats his bread. Lunch was apparently simple. He does his writing exercises. He goes home and tells his father about his day. His father is impressed that his son is learning. He invites the teacher to dinner and gives him gifts, and the teacher praises the student effusively. It sounds almost comic in its familiarity. The teacher praising the student because he was given a good meal. The child eager to impress his father. The learning happening line by line, tablet by tablet, day by day. Other texts are less charming. We have records of punishments at the Adaba. Students who arrived late were beaten. Students who spoke out of turn were beaten. Students who made errors on their tablets, misshapen signs, incorrect word forms, were beaten. It was not a gentle education. But the students who completed it emerged as scribes, literate, numerate, skilled professionals who could find employment in temples, palaces, trading houses, and royal courts. They could copy legal documents, write letters for illiterate clients, maintain temple accounts, draft contracts, compose formal prayers. Literacy, in ancient Mesopotamia, was a gateway to a comfortable life. And the curriculum they learned was extraordinary. It wasn't just writing. At the Idaba, students learned mathematics, a sophisticated, base 60-number system that we still use today when we divide time into 60 minutes and 60 seconds, and circles into 360 degrees. They learned astronomy, which in those days was barely distinguishable from astrology. They learned Sumerian language and literature. Even after Sumerian had become a dead spoken language, it remained the language of scholarship and ritual, like Latin in medieval Europe, and scribes were expected to know it. They learned lists. Enormous, comprehensive, meticulous lists of things. Lists of trees. Lists of animals. Lists of gods. Lists of professions. Lists of legal terms. Lists of geographic features. Lists of diseases. Lists of words in multiple languages. These lists are called lexical texts, and they are among the most ancient systematized knowledge in human history. They represent something deeply human, the urge to organize the world, to name everything in it, to create order out of the bewildering variety of existence by making a list and knowing you have accounted for it all. The list-making impulse is still with us. You probably made a list today, in some form. A mental list of things to do, or a shopping list, or a list of worries that you carried around and tried to work through. The ancient Mesopotamians made lists, too. And some of their lists have survived on clay tablets in museums around the world, filed carefully in cases, labeled and catalogued, a list of lists. There is something quietly wonderful about that. Breathe in slowly. Let everything soften just a little bit more. We're going to talk about numbers for a while, not in an alarming way, not in the way that might make you feel anxious about mathematics. Just in a gentle, wondering way. Because the numbers of ancient Mesopotamia are among the most intimate connections between that world and ours. When you glance at a clock tonight, or tomorrow morning when you wake up, soft and slow, and reach for your phone to see the time, you will see numbers arranged in a base 60 system. 60 seconds in a minute. 60 minutes in an hour. This is not an arbitrary choice. This is a direct inheritance from the ancient Sumerians, transmitted across 5,000 years of human civilization into the digital face of your modern device. The Sumerians counted in base 60. We call this the sexagesimal system. And there are good mathematical reasons for it. 60 is a highly composite number, meaning it can be divided evenly by more numbers than almost any number of comparable size. You can divide 60 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, and 30. This makes it extremely practical for calculations involving fractions, which came up constantly in trade and astronomy. The Babylonians, the successors to the Sumerians, who inherited and expanded their mathematical knowledge, were extraordinary mathematicians. They had multiplication tables. They had tables of squares and square roots and cube roots. They had algorithms for calculating compound interest. They had methods for solving what we would now recognize as quadratic equations, problems with unknowns raised to the second power, more than 1,000 years before the ancient Greeks developed their algebra. A famous tablet called Plimpton 322, discovered in the early 20th century and now housed at Columbia University, contains a table of Pythagorean triples. Numbers satisfying the Pythagorean theorem. The sides of right triangles. And it dates to around 1800 BCE, more than 1,000 years before Pythagoras was born. The Pythagorean theorem may not have been Greek. It may have been Babylonian. And the Babylonian astronomers. Let me tell you about them quietly, because they spent their nights doing something very much like what the stars seem to invite: quiet observation, patient attention, the slow accumulation of data over years and decades and centuries. Babylonian astronomers, who were also priests, because the sky was a sacred text to be read, maintained meticulous records of celestial events for hundreds of years. They tracked the movements of the planets, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Mercury. They recorded lunar eclipses with extraordinary accuracy. They developed sophisticated mathematical models to predict future celestial events, not because they simply watched and waited, but because they had accumulated enough data over centuries to identify patterns, calculate cycles, make predictions. They identified what we now call the Saros cycle, the 18-year, 11-day cycle that governs the recurrence of solar and lunar eclipses. This cycle is so accurate that modern astronomers still use it for eclipse prediction. They divided the sky into 12 constellations along the path of the sun's apparent annual journey, the 12 zodiac constellations that you probably know by name: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. These are Babylonian inventions, or at least, Babylonian categorizations of patterns that had been recognized for much longer. The zodiac, one of the most famous systems in the world, was organized and codified in Babylon. The planet Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system, was tracked so carefully by Babylonian astronomers that they developed sophisticated geometric methods to calculate its velocity and position. A 2016 study published in the journal Science revealed that a set of ancient Babylonian clay tablets, previously assumed to contain only lists of numbers, actually contained a form of trapezoid geometry used to predict Jupiter's movement across the sky. This geometric method was previously thought to have been invented in medieval Europe. It was actually used in Babylon more than 1,400 years earlier. They looked at the same sky you are imagining right now. The same stars. The same planets moving in their slow, predictable arcs. And they watched them so carefully, so patiently, so methodically over so many generations, that they worked out the underlying mathematics of how it all moved. They wanted to understand the cosmos. They believed, with a conviction that was part science and part religion and fully sincere, that the heavens spoke to the earth. That the movements of celestial bodies carried meaning, carried messages, carried the intentions of the gods toward human civilization. And in trying to read those messages, in trying to decode what the sky was saying, they became the world's first mathematical astronomers. The sky tonight is the same sky they watched. The stars are the same stars, in almost exactly the same positions, with almost exactly the same names that they gave them. That is a form of continuity that the mind can barely hold. Let your breathing slow a little more. In ancient Mesopotamia, the gods were not distant or abstract. They were immediate, personal, and present. They lived in the temples. They ate meals that were prepared for them twice a day by temple priests. They wore clothing that was ritually changed on a regular schedule. They traveled on ceremonial barges, carried in processions through the streets, so that the people could see them and they could see the people. Well, their statues did these things. Their physical representations. But in the ancient Mesopotamian worldview, the statue of a god and the god itself were not separate things. The statue was the god, in a way that is difficult to translate into modern terms. When the cult statue of a deity was installed in its temple, it underwent an elaborate ritual called the mouth-washing ceremony, a ritual that was believed to literally animate the divine presence in the clay and gold and precious stone of the image. The gods were present. And their homes were the great temples that stood at the center of every Mesopotamian city. Let me tell you about the ziggurat. The ziggurat was the architectural heart of Mesopotamian civilization. It was a massive step tower, not a pyramid, but something almost like a mountain made of mud brick, rising in terraces one above the other, each level smaller than the one below, tapering toward the sky. At the very top, a small shrine or temple marked the summit, the meeting place between earth and heaven, the point where the human world and the divine world touched. The word ziggurat comes from a Babylonian word meaning to build high or to build on a raised area. They were building toward the gods. They were constructing a staircase between worlds. The greatest ziggurat was the Epic, a name that means, in Sumerian, house of the foundation of heaven and earth. It stood in the center of the city of Babylon, and it was so large, so impossibly tall, so dominating of the flat Mesopotamian landscape, that later travelers from other cultures, people who had never seen anything like it, were stunned into mythology. Some historians believe that the biblical Tower of Babel was the Epic. The biblical description, a tower whose top reaches to the heavens, is not an exaggeration. By ancient standards, the Epic was exactly that. Some ancient sources describe it as reaching a height of approximately 90 meters, nearly 300 feet. In the flat plains of southern Iraq, where there is almost nothing to break the horizon, a tower of that height would have been visible from miles away. It would have seemed, to any traveler approaching across the flat landscape, as though something were reaching up toward the sky. The ancient Mesopotamians had a name for the great cities of their civilization. They called them the navel of the world. Each city believed itself to be the center of the cosmos, the place where heaven and earth were most intimately connected. And the ziggurat, rising above the houses and the markets and the canals, was the physical expression of that belief. At the base of the ziggurat, or in the courtyards surrounding it, the daily life of the temple unfolded. Priests conducted elaborate rituals at sunrise, noon, and sunset. Temple singers performed hymns. Temple musicians played reed instruments, harps, lyres. The smell of cedar and juniper incense drifted through the courts. The gods had families, just as humans did. The chief deity of Babylon was a god named Marduk, a magnificent, golden, complex god associated with Jupiter, with magic, with creation, with the wisdom of leadership. His wife was Sarpanatu, a gentle goddess associated with the moon and with creation. His son was Nabu, the god of writing and wisdom, the scribe among the gods, keeping records in the divine ledger. The greatest Mesopotamian myth is the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic. It begins not with chaos and darkness, but with water. Two primordial waters, the sweet freshwater ocean called Apsu and the salt sea called Tiamat, existed before anything else. And their mingling was the beginning of creation. When on high the heaven had not been named, firm ground below had not been called by name. Naught but primordial Apsu, their begetter, and Mama Tiamat, she who bore them all, their waters commingling as a single body. The gods were born from that mingling. They grew numerous and noisy, disturbing the ancient waters. Eventually there was war between the old gods and the new, a great cosmic battle in which Marduk slew the primordial ocean goddess Tiamat and created the world from her body. Her ribs became the arch of heaven. Her tail became the Milky Way. Her eyes became the sources of the Tigris and the Euphrates. Even the rivers of Mesopotamia were divine. The story is ancient and strange and beautiful, and it ends with the creation of human beings, made, in the Babylonian telling, from the blood of a defeated god, mixed with clay. Humans were created to serve the gods, to do the work of maintaining the world that the gods didn't want to do themselves. Digging canals, tending fields, building temples, offering food and incense and prayer. In this mythology, human beings are divine in origin, literally made from divine blood, but created for service. It is a mythology that reflects the world these people lived in, a world of enormous labor, of powerful rulers who required constant tribute, of a universe that felt both generous and demanding. And yet, within that framework, there was beauty. There was wonder. There were prayers of genuine devotion. There was music and art and poetry. There were hymns to the moon god Sin that read like love poems to the night sky. O Sin, glorious one, who holds the reins of heaven, whose torch illumines the sky, who lights the darkness. The nights of ancient Mesopotamia, before electric light, before the orange glow that softens the darkness of every modern city, were very, very dark and very, very full of stars. The Milky Way would have been clearly visible, a dense river of light arching across the sky. The planets would have been bright, unmistakable, moving slowly but visibly against the background of fixed stars. To a person standing in the courtyard of a Babylonian temple at midnight, looking up at that sky, the sense of presence, of something vast and intelligent watching and being watched, must have been overwhelming. We have lost something, perhaps, in gaining our electric nights. We have traded the overwhelming intimacy of the dark sky for safety and convenience and the ability to see each other's faces after sunset. It is a trade worth making. But something was there in those ancient dark nights that is harder to access now. a sense of scale, a sense of the universe pressing gently on the mind. Around 1754 BCE, a king named Hammurabi, the sixth king of the first Babylonian dynasty, did something that no ruler had ever done before in quite the same systematic, comprehensive way. He wrote down the law. All of it. Everything. Every rule, every regulation, every penalty, every process. He compiled a code of laws, 282 specific legal provisions, covering everything from commercial contracts to property rights to marriage and divorce to medical malpractice to the treatment of slaves, and had it carved, in cuneiform script, on a massive black diorite stele nearly 8 feet tall. The stele was then set up in a public place in Babylon, where anyone who could read could consult it. This was the Code of Hammurabi. And the principle behind it was one that we still hold today. Though we phrase it differently, the law should be public knowledge. No one should be able to claim ignorance of the law. No ruler or judge should be able to change the law secretly or apply it arbitrarily. The law is the law, carved in stone, for everyone to see. The stele itself shows Hammurabi standing before the sun god Shamash, the god of justice, who is depicted seated on his throne, extending to Hammurabi the symbols of royal authority. The implication is clear: these are not Hammurabi's laws. These are divine laws, given by the god of justice to the king, who is merely their earthly custodian. The code begins with a prologue in which Hammurabi describes himself and his divine mandate. When Anu the Sublime, king of the Anunnaki, and Bel, the lord of heaven and earth, who decreed the fate of the land, assigned to Marduk, the overruling son of Ea, god of righteousness, dominion over earthly men, and made him great among the Igigi, they called Babylon by his illustrious name, made it great on earth, and founded an everlasting kingdom in it, whose foundations are laid so solidly as those of heaven and earth. And then the laws begin. Some of them are surprisingly familiar. There are laws about contracts. Agreements must be made in front of witnesses, and any agreement made without proper witnesses is invalid. There are laws about deposits. If someone leaves goods in safekeeping with another person and those goods are stolen, the person who accepted the deposit is responsible for compensating the owner. There are laws about professional responsibility. If a builder constructs a house that collapses and kills its owner, the builder shall be put to death. Some of them are less familiar. There are laws about marriage and divorce, about inheritance and adoption, about the rights of widows and orphans, about the treatment of enslaved people. There are laws about what happens when a soldier is taken prisoner of war. His wife is permitted to remarry, but if he returns, she must return to him, and the children follow the father. And then there is the principle that has become the most famous phrase associated with the entire code, though it is usually slightly misquoted. An eye for an eye. A tooth for a tooth. It sounds brutal. And in some interpretations, it is. But read in context, the law of retaliation in the Code of Hammurabi was actually intended as a limiting principle, not, you must take an eye for an eye, but, you may not take more than an eye for an eye. Revenge must be proportional to the injury. You cannot kill someone for breaking your window. You cannot impoverish an entire family for one person's debt. The idea of proportionality in justice. The idea that punishment must fit the crime. These are not modern inventions. They were carved in stone in Babylon in 1754 BCE. The Code of Hammurabi was discovered in 1901 during a French archaeological expedition to the ancient site of Susa in modern Iran, where it had been taken as war spoils by an Elamite king centuries after Hammurabi's death. It now sits in the Louvre Museum in Paris, where you can visit it and run your eyes across the dense cuneiform text and think about the extraordinary continuity of human concerns across 5,000 years. Property rights, family structure, professional responsibility, the protection of the vulnerable, the proportionality of punishment, the public accessibility of law. Hammurabi didn't invent all of these ideas. There were earlier law codes in Mesopotamia, including the laws of Uarnamu, which are several centuries older. But he assembled them into something comprehensive, something systematic, something that covered the whole of civic life with careful, thoughtful attention. He was, in a way, the first great lawgiver. Let's step away from kings and gods for a while. Let's walk through the streets of an ancient Mesopotamian city at an ordinary hour on an ordinary day. Let's see what daily life actually looked like for the people who weren't kings, the people who weren't priests, the people who woke up in the morning and went about their business and came home at night and ate their dinner and lay down to sleep. The city smells of things. All cities smell, but ancient cities without sewage systems or garbage collection smells of very particular things. You would smell the river, brown water, wet mud, the slightly mineral smell of the Euphrates or the Tigris carried on the warm breeze. You would smell cook fires, wood and dried dung, the smoky, earthy smell of fuel burning in open hearths. You would smell bread baking, flat, dense barley bread, the staple food of ancient Mesopotamia, baked in clay ovens that dotted the residential neighborhoods. And you would smell beer. Beer was not a luxury in ancient Mesopotamia. It was a staple, a food, a caloric supplement, a medicine, a social lubricant. Beer was consumed by virtually everyone, every day, and in enormous quantities. The ancient Sumerians had a goddess specifically for beer, Ninkasi, the lady who fills the mouth. And they wrote her a hymn, the hymn to Ninkasi, that is simultaneously a prayer of devotion and an extremely detailed recipe for brewing beer. You are the one who handles the dough and, with a big shovel, mixing in a pit, the batter with sweet aromatics. Ninkasi, you are the one who handles the dough. Scholars have actually used the hymn to Ninkasi to reconstruct the ancient Sumerian brewing process, and some experimental archaeologists and craft brewers have made versions of the beer it describes. It was a thick, slightly sour, somewhat sweet beverage made from barley that had been sprouted, dried, and baked into loaves, then fermented with dates or grape juice to add sweetness and body. People drank it through straws, long reed straws with filtering baskets at the bottom to keep out the grain chaff that floated in the fermenting liquid. Images of people sitting together and drinking through straws from a shared vessel are among the most commonly depicted scenes in ancient Mesopotamian art. They sat together, these ancient people, and shared a drink. They talked. They conducted business. They gossiped. They told stories. They sang, perhaps. The tavern was a social institution in ancient Mesopotamia. We have references to taverns, to tavern keepers, often women, to the social life that centered on the communal consumption of beer in a shared space. The average ancient Mesopotamian ate a diet that was surprisingly reasonable by modern nutritional standards, if somewhat monotonous. The foundation was barley, bread, porridge, beer. Alongside this came fish, which was abundant in the rivers and the marshes of southern Mesopotamia. The ancient Sumerians ate dozens of varieties of fish. They caught them in nets, dried them in the sun, salted them, fermented them into sauces. They ate dates, fresh and dried, from the vast date palm orchards that lined the riverbanks. Dates were extraordinarily calorie-dense and kept well in the warm climate, making them a vital winter food. They ate onions, garlic, leeks, cucumbers, turnips, lentils, chickpeas. They ate lamb and goat meat, though meat was expensive and reserved for special occasions for most ordinary people. They kept sheep and goats primarily for their wool and milk rather than their meat. Dairy was important. Butter and ghee, clarified butter, were used in cooking and also in ritual offerings to the gods. Cheese was made from the milk of sheep and goats. Yogurt, probably. Meals were cooked over open fires or in clay ovens. Stews were common, a combination of grain, legumes, vegetables, and whatever fish or meat was available, slow cooked in clay pots until everything was soft and melded together. The flavors would have been strong: garlic and onion and the slightly fermented taste of the barley, the richness of fat, the brininess of preserved fish. The houses of ordinary people were small by modern standards, 1 or 2 or 3 rooms, arranged around a small central courtyard or built in rows along the narrow streets. They were made of mud brick, and in the hot Mesopotamian summers they would have been stifling. People spent much of their time outdoors, in shaded courtyards, on rooftops in the evening when the heat of the day had faded. The rooftop was an important social space. People slept on their rooftops in summer. The open air, even in the warm nights of southern Iraq, was cooler than the airless interior of a mud brick room. They gathered on rooftops in the evenings to talk and look at the sky. Children played on rooftops. Sometimes, in densely packed urban neighborhoods, rooftops from adjacent buildings were at the same level, effectively extending the usable space of the home into the neighbor's territory, requiring negotiation and courtesy. The wealthy lived differently, of course. Elite houses in cities like Ur and Nippur were large, multi-roomed affairs built around substantial central courtyards with wells and sometimes trees. They had servants. They had luxury goods, lapis lazuli jewelry, gold ornaments, fine woolen textiles, imported timber and stone. They had furniture, wooden beds and chairs and tables, sometimes inlaid with shell or precious stone. Lapis lazuli deserves a gentle moment of attention. It is a vivid, deep blue stone, a blue so intense and pure that for most of human history, it was among the most valuable substances on earth. And it came from one place, the mines of Badakhshan, in what is now northeastern Afghanistan. From those remote mountain mines, lapis lazuli traveled along trade routes that crossed hundreds and hundreds of miles of desert and mountain, passing through dozens of hands, to reach the cities of Mesopotamia. The fact that it appeared in Mesopotamia at all is extraordinary, It is evidence of a trade network stretching from the mountains of Central Asia to the Persian Gulf, operating more than 5,000 years ago. The ancient Mesopotamians used lapis lazuli everywhere. In jewelry. In cylinder seals, the tiny carved stone cylinders that served as personal signatures, pressed into clay to leave a raised imprint. In the eyes of cult statues. In the mosaic decoration of royal tombs. The famous bull-headed lyre discovered in the royal tombs of Ur, a golden, magnificent musical instrument buried with a Sumerian queen around 2600 BCE, has a beard of lapis lazuli on its bull's head, gleaming blue-black against the gold. The Queen's Lyre of Ur was one of the most spectacular archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, excavated by the British archaeologist Leonard Woolley in the 1920s. The royal tombs of Ur contain not only extraordinary treasures, golden helmets, silver harps, golden drinking vessels, carnelian and lapis lazuli necklaces, but also something that disturbed archaeologists deeply: the bodies of attendants. Dozens of them, in some tombs. Court ladies in their finest garments and jewelry, officers with their weapons, grooms with their oxen and carts, musicians with their instruments. All of them dead, all of them arranged in their positions as though they had lain down to sleep. They had apparently walked into the tomb voluntarily, when their monarch died, and taken a poison draught that allowed them to die peacefully in their positions. They accompanied their kings and queens into the next life. What do we make of that? What does it say about a culture that such a thing was possible? That people would choose, or feel they had no choice, to die alongside their ruler. It says something about the depth of the belief system, about the vision of the afterlife, about the relationship between power and devotion in that world. It says that the world these people lived in was both familiar and profoundly alien to our own. You can hold that knowledge softly. You don't need to resolve it. You can let it be complicated and strange and ancient, and simply acknowledge that these were real people who lived extraordinary lives in an extraordinary world. We have been drifting through the earlier centuries of Mesopotamian history, through the Sumerian cities, through the early kingdoms. Now let me take you to a place that has held a particular fascination for the human imagination for 3,000 years. Babylon. The very name carries weight. It appears in the Bible more than 200 times. It appears in the book of Revelation as a symbol of corrupt earthly power. It appears in the works of Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian who described it with wide-eyed wonder. It appears in the poetry of William Blake, in the reggae music of Bob Marley, in science fiction novels and comic books and films. It has become, in a sense, a permanent resident of the human imagination, a shorthand for something grand and decadent and powerful and fallen. But the real Babylon, the actual city, the physical place, was something different. Something more complicated, and in some ways more wonderful, than the mythology suggests. Babylon was located on the Euphrates River, in what is now central Iraq, about 85 kilometers south of modern Baghdad. Its name, in Akkadian, the Semitic language that eventually replaced Sumerian as the dominant language of Mesopotamia, was Bab-Eli, the Gate of God. Or, depending on interpretation, the Gate of the Gods, plural. The city's most famous period was during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II, who ruled from 605 to 562 BCE. This was the height of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the last great Mesopotamian empire before the Persian conquest, and under Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon was rebuilt and expanded into one of the most magnificent cities in the ancient world. The city was enormous. Some ancient sources give its area as approximately 1,000 square kilometers, which would make it one of the largest cities in the ancient world by area, though some of that area was gardens and military zones rather than dense urban settlement. The urban core was surrounded by massive defensive walls, in fact, by two sets of walls, one inside the other, with a moat in between. The outer walls of Babylon were so wide that, according to the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, a four-horse chariot could turn around on top of them. This may be an exaggeration, but the walls were genuinely enormous. The ancient Greek writer Ctesias claimed that the walls were so thick that two chariots could pass each other on top. Modern archaeological work has confirmed that the walls were impressively massive, though perhaps not quite as enormous as the ancient descriptions suggest. They were made of millions of sun-dried mud bricks, faced with fired brick for extra durability, and they enclosed a city that was the most powerful in the world at that time. The Great Processional Way, the main ceremonial street of Babylon, ran straight through the city from north to south, paved with stones of white limestone and red breccia, its sides lined with decorated walls showing lions in glazed blue and yellow tile. This was the route along which the Great New Year festival procession traveled, the god Marduk's statue, borne on a sacred barge down the Euphrates and then carried in procession through the city, with the king walking beside it in a ceremonial reenactment of creation. At the north end of the processional way stood the Ishtar Gate, an enormous double gate named for the goddess of love and war, covered in brilliant blue glazed tile and decorated with alternating rows of bulls and dragons, the animals associated with the gods Adad and Marduk. The gate was more than 14 meters high, and its surface was a deep, vivid lapis lazuli blue that would have been visible from a distance, gleaming in the Mesopotamian sun. A reconstructed version of the Ishtar Gate stands in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, assembled from fragments of the original excavated by German archaeologists in the early 20th century. Standing in front of it, the brilliant blue, the serene processional animals, the scale of it, is genuinely moving. Even as a reconstruction, even in a museum in Central Europe, it carries something of the original power. Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar was also the city where he brought the people of Judah after the conquest of Jerusalem in 597 BCE. This deportation, what the Hebrew Bible calls the Babylonian captivity, or the Babylonian exile, was a pivotal event in the history of Judaism. The Jewish exiles in Babylon maintained their identity, their traditions, their texts. Some scholars believe that key portions of the Hebrew Bible were written down or edited during this period, as the exiled community sought to preserve its cultural heritage far from home. The rivers of Babylon. The weeping by the rivers. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and wept, when we remembered Zion. That is Psalm 137, one of the most famous laments in literature. Written by people sitting beside the Euphrates and the Tigris, in exile, remembering their homeland. The rivers of Mesopotamia appear in some of the most important literature in human history. Babylon fell to the Persian king Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE, a conquest that was apparently accomplished with remarkably little violence. According to the Cyrus cylinder, an ancient clay cylinder inscribed with Cyrus's own account of his conquest, now in the British Museum and sometimes called the world's first declaration of human rights, Cyrus entered Babylon in peace, was welcomed by its people, and allowed the various peoples who had been deported to the city to return to their homelands. This cylinder is one of the most famous objects in the ancient world. It records that Cyrus allowed exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return home, a policy that the Hebrew Bible records as the decree of Cyrus that ended the Babylonian captivity. An object about 4 inches long, made of clay. From 539 BCE, recording a moment that changed the history of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There is a mystery hanging gently over the ancient world, and it has been hanging there for 2,500 years, and nobody has quite resolved it. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon. They are one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the classical list of the most spectacular human constructions ever made. And unlike the other 6 wonders, the Hanging Gardens have left no archaeological trace. No physical evidence of their existence has ever been confirmed. Which means one of 2 things: either they existed and have not yet been found, or they didn't exist as described and were perhaps a literary or legendary embellishment. Some modern scholars have proposed that the Hanging Gardens may have actually been located not in Babylon but in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital, and that the confusion arose because Nineveh was sometimes called Old Babylon in certain texts. A British Assyriologist named Stephanie Daly has spent decades building the case for this theory, and it is seriously entertained by scholars, though not universally accepted. But let's set the archaeology aside for a moment and just let the image exist. The Hanging Gardens, as described by ancient sources, were an extraordinary feat of engineering. They were built, according to some traditions, by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife Amadis, a Median princess who had grown up in the green, mountainous landscape of what is now Iran. When she came to Babylon, to the flat, hot, treeless plains of southern Mesopotamia, she was homesick for the hills and forests of her homeland. And so Nebuchadnezzar, in an act of imperial love, or perhaps political necessity, built her a mountain. An artificial mountain, made of stone arches and vaulted chambers and terraced platforms, rising in steps above the flat city, planted with trees and flowers and vines that cascaded down the sides like a waterfall of green. The engineering challenge was immense. In a city located on a flat plain with no natural water source above ground level, watering a terraced garden that rose to a height of some 75 feet required a system to lift water continuously from the river below. Ancient sources describe a device, possibly a screw pump or a chain pump, that lifted water from the Euphrates and delivered it to the top of the structure, from where it flowed downward through the garden, irrigating each terrace. Imagine it on a hot summer afternoon, the flat, brown, sun-baked plains of Babylon stretching away in every direction, the dust and the heat shimmering, the mud brick walls bleached pale by the sun. And in the middle of it all, this impossible green thing. This mountain of flowers and shade and running water. Trees with their roots in stone arches, their branches moving in the warm breeze. Vines hanging down in thick curtains of green. The sound of water. Whether it existed or not, the image is beautiful. The idea of someone, a king, a husband, a builder, trying to recreate a landscape for a homesick person. Trying to bring the mountains to the plains. Trying to fill an absence with architecture. The human impulse behind it, the longing for a landscape, the love that moves one person to try to give another the thing they are missing, is deeply recognizable. The ancient Mesopotamians were not passive in the face of illness. They had a sophisticated, by the standards of their time, medical tradition, one that combined what we would now separate into two distinct categories: empirical medicine, based on observation and experience, and magical medicine, based on ritual and spiritual intervention. In ancient Mesopotamia, these two categories were not separate. They were the same thing, approached simultaneously, because the understanding of disease was that it had both natural and supernatural dimensions. A person who fell ill had, in most cases, suffered some kind of spiritual injury. They had offended a god, or been cursed by an enemy, or been attacked by a demon. But the symptoms of that illness were also physical and observable, and required physical treatment. So the Mesopotamian healer, the ASU, or physician, combined ritual prayers and incantations with practical treatments, herbal medicines, bandages, poultices, surgical procedures. We have medical texts from ancient Mesopotamia that list treatments for specific conditions with a directness that is sometimes startling. There are treatments for eye infections, for dental problems, for skin diseases, for fever. There are surgical texts. There are texts dealing with gynecological conditions, with childbirth, with pregnancy complications. The pharmacopoeia of ancient Mesopotamian medicine was extensive. Hundreds of plants were used medicinally. Some of them, willow bark, thyme, myrrh, castor oil, contain compounds that modern pharmaceutical science recognizes as genuinely medically active. The ancient healers didn't know why these substances worked, in the biochemical sense. But they had accumulated, through generations of observation and practice, a body of empirical knowledge about what helped and what didn't. One of the most famous medical texts from ancient Mesopotamia is a diagnostic handbook compiled in the 11th century BCE by a scholar-physician named Esagil-Kinapli. This handbook, preserved on 40 clay tablets, describes a systematic approach to diagnosis based on the observation of symptoms. The physician is instructed to observe the patient carefully, the color of their skin, the quality of their breath, the nature of their pain, the time of day when symptoms are worst, the color and consistency of various bodily fluids. From these observations, the physician is expected to identify the nature of the illness and the supernatural cause, which specific god or demon is responsible, and then prescribe both the appropriate ritual intervention and the appropriate physical treatment. It is not modern medicine, but it is structured, systematic, empirical in its approach to observation. It represents the same impulse that drives modern medicine, the desire to understand disease through careful observation, to identify patterns, to develop treatments that work. And there are moments in these ancient medical texts where the humanity of the situation breaks through the ritual language and is simply moving. A description of a child with a high fever, lying restless in the night. The physician's instructions for a gentle treatment. The prayer that accompanies it, asking the god to release the child from their suffering. parents watching their sick child, trying to help, praying to whatever they believed might listen. Nothing has changed in that moment across 5,000 years. Now we've arrived at one of the quietest, most important stops on our journey through ancient Mesopotamia. The story. The oldest story in the world. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a poem, a long, magnificent, emotionally complex poem about a king who was afraid to die. Gilgamesh was, if the historical records are to be believed, a real king. He ruled the city of Uruk in ancient Sumer sometime around 2700 BCE. The later legendary tradition transformed him into a semi-divine figure, described as 2/3 divine and 1/3 human, of enormous strength and power. He was said to be the most beautiful man in the world, and the most powerful, and the most restless, and the most difficult. The epic begins with Gilgamesh as a tyrant, essentially. He exhausts his people with his demands. He takes what he wants. He is too much, too powerful, too alive, too present. The gods, responding to the prayers of his suffering people, create a wild man named Enkidu as a counterbalance to Gilgamesh. Enkidu is born in the wild, raised among animals, equal in strength to the king. When Gilgamesh and Enkidu finally meet, after an encounter that begins as a wrestling match and becomes a friendship, something shifts. They become inseparable. They are each other's mirror, each other's complement, the beloved companion each had not known they were missing. Together they go on adventures. They fight monsters. They defy gods. They are reckless and magnificent and alive. And then Enkidu dies. He dies of a disease sent by the gods as punishment for the pair's hubris. He dies slowly, in a bed, while Gilgamesh watches. And Gilgamesh, this man of tremendous power, this king who had never felt fear, is undone. He cannot accept it. He cannot accept death. He wanders the wilderness, unkempt and grieving, terrified now not of any enemy he could fight but of the one thing he cannot fight. He sets out on a quest, a long, impossible, mythologically dense journey to find the secret of eternal life. He crosses the ocean that divides the world of the living from the world beyond. He finds the one man who has been granted immortality, a man named Utnapishtim, who survived a great flood sent by the gods and was rewarded with eternal life. The flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh predates the biblical flood narrative by centuries, and is strikingly similar to it. One man, warned by a god of a coming flood, builds a boat, takes animals aboard, rides out the flood, and sends out birds to determine when land has reappeared. The parallel is so close that when Assyriologist George Smith first translated it in 1872, his discovery caused a sensation in Victorian England. Here was a flood story older than the Bible, telling essentially the same tale. Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh where to find a plant at the bottom of the sea that grants immortality. Gilgamesh dives for it. He finds it. He holds it in his hands, this flower that will make him eternal. And then he stops to rest beside a cool pool. And a snake, attracted by the flower's scent, slithers out of the water, takes the plant in its mouth, and disappears. The snake sheds its skin, and disappears, eternal in its own way, and Gilgamesh is left with nothing. He weeps. And then he returns home, empty-handed, still mortal, still facing death. But the story doesn't end in despair. Because at the end, Gilgamesh returns to Uruk and does something very specific. He climbs the walls of his city. He runs his hands along the stones. He shows his companion, a ferryman named Urshanabi, who traveled with him, the walls, the city, the brickwork. Look at it still today, the outer wall where the cornice runs, it shines with the brilliance of copper, and the inner wall, it has no equal. Touch the threshold, it is ancient. He offers the city. Not immortality, he couldn't find that. But this. The thing he built. The thing that will outlast him. There is a profound quietness to that ending. The greatest hero of the ancient world comes home from his impossible quest, accepts his mortality, and offers his city as his answer to death. Not eternal life. Legacy. Work. The wall that still stands. The threshold that is old. The epic was assembled in its most complete form by a scholar named Sinlekianini, somewhere around 1200 BCE. But its roots go back much further, into oral traditions and earlier written versions that are still being pieced together from fragmentary tablets. It was lost after the fall of the Assyrian Empire, buried in the ruins of Nineveh, not read by anyone for more than 2,000 years. And then, in the mid-19th century, it was found again. Translated. Read by a world that had forgotten it completely. And the world recognized it immediately. Not as something alien or incomprehensible. As something familiar. As a story about friendship, and grief, and the terror of death, and the search for meaning, and the eventual acceptance of finitude. A story from 5,000 years ago that is about the same things we are still afraid of tonight. Ancient Mesopotamia didn't end all at once. Great civilizations rarely do. The Sumerian city-states gave way to the Akkadian Empire, the world's first true empire, established by a king named Sargon of Akkad around 2334 BCE. Sargon was himself a legend. According to tradition, he was born in secret and set adrift on a river in a basket, found by a water carrier, and raised in obscurity before rising to become the most powerful king in the world. The parallels to Moses, found in the bulrushes, are obvious. Sargon's Akkadian Empire stretched from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean, encompassing more territory than any political entity had ever controlled before. It lasted perhaps 150 years before internal rebellion and external pressure brought it down. Then came the third dynasty of Ur, a renaissance, in some ways, of Sumerian culture, a last flowering of the ancient southern civilization before the language of Sumer began its long decline as a spoken tongue. Then the Old Babylonian period, and the reign of Hammurabi and his successors. Then the long, slow Middle Ages of Mesopotamian history, the Kassite kings, the Mitanni, the complicated centuries of the Bronze Age when Mesopotamia was one player in a complex web of international diplomacy and trade that extended from Egypt to Mycenaean Greece to the Hittite Empire of Anatolia. Then the rise of Assyria, the fierce, militaristic empire of the north, whose armies were the terror of the ancient world, whose siege techniques were the most advanced of their age, and whose kings created the most magnificent libraries and the most brutal propaganda simultaneously. Then the Neo-Babylonian Empire and Nebuchadnezzar. And then Persia. Cyrus the Great entered Babylon in 539 BCE. And though the city continued to exist, continued to be important, continued to be inhabited, the great chain of Mesopotamian empires was broken. The ancient tradition of Mesopotamian kingship, which had run unbroken in some form for more than 2,000 years, ended. After Cyrus came Alexander. Alexander the Great, who conquered the Persian Empire in the 330s BCE and entered Babylon in 331 BCE. He intended to make Babylon the capital of his vast empire, the greatest city for the greatest conqueror. He had plans to restore the great Ziggurat-Etamananki, which had fallen into disrepair. He was going to rebuild it. He died in Babylon in 323 BCE, at the age of 32, before the rebuilding could begin. He died in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar, in the city that had been one of the wonders of the world. After Alexander, his empire split among his generals, and Babylon gradually lost importance. The city of Seleucia was built nearby, pulling trade and population away. Over the following centuries, Babylon shrank. Its buildings crumbled. Its massive mud brick walls, which had no mortar to hold them together, just compressed clay, slowly dissolved back into the earth. By the time Arab geographers described the region in the medieval period, Babylon was mostly a field of ruins, inhabited by a small population who dug in the ancient mounds for bricks they could reuse in new construction. The bricks of Babylon were recycled into the buildings of medieval Baghdad and other towns. The great Ziggurat-Etamananki became a hill of rubble, a prominent mound called Babel, which is still visible today. The processional way, the Ishtar Gate, the Hanging Gardens, all gradually consumed by earth and time and the endless, patient return of clay to clay. It took archaeologists excavating in the late 19th and early 20th centuries to begin uncovering what remained. And what they found was extraordinary, enough to reconstruct, at least in imagination and in museum display, the outlines of what had been. But the living city was gone. The language was gone. Akkadian, the last language written in cuneiform, fell out of use in the 1st century CE. The last dated cuneiform tablet we know of is from 75 CE, an astronomical text, appropriately enough, still tracking the stars in the ancient script that Mesopotamian civilization had used for more than 3,000 years. And then silence. The clay tablets went into the ground. The ziggurats slowly collapsed. The canals silted up and dried. The cities, made of the same river mud from which they had been built, returned to mud. Now we are coming to the softer, quieter part of our journey. The part where we slow down and breathe and feel the weight of all of this settle gently into something peaceful. Let me tell you about the inheritance. The world you live in tonight, the world you wake into every morning, the civilization you move through with such ease and familiarity that you rarely think about its origins, carries within it an enormous amount of ancient Mesopotamia. The 60-minute hour. The 60-second minute. The 360-degree circle. These are Babylonian. The 12 signs of the zodiac. Babylonian. The 7-day week, with each day named for a celestial body. Babylonian, by way of Rome and the later Mediterranean world, but ultimately derived from the Babylonian astronomical and astrological tradition. The concept of writing itself, of using marks on a surface to record language permanently, developed in Mesopotamia. The concept of schools. The concept of law as a written, public, systematic code. The concept of libraries as institutions dedicated to the preservation of knowledge. All of these have their earliest known precursors in ancient Mesopotamia. The stories. The flood narrative. The hero's journey into the wilderness. The search for immortality. The lament of the exile by the rivers of a foreign land. These entered the literary and spiritual traditions of the ancient world through the long, complex chains of cultural transmission that connected Mesopotamia to the Mediterranean, to the Hebrew world, to Persia, to Greece, to Rome, to the cultures that built Europe, to the cultures that built the modern world. When you read the Bible, in any tradition that includes it, you are reading texts that were composed in a world that was in constant contact with Mesopotamian culture. The stories, the imagery, the legal concepts, the cosmological ideas, all of them carry traces of that ancient river valley. When you look at a clock, you are using a number system invented 5,000 years ago by people who believed the sky held messages from the gods. When you go to school, you are participating in an institution whose ancestors sat in rows in ancient Sumer, pressing cuneiform signs into wet clay under the supervision of a teacher called the school father. When you consult a lawyer, or appeal to a court, or invoke the concept of justice, you are reaching back to a tradition whose oldest articulation is carved in black diorite in the Louvre Museum, where a king named Hammurabi stands before the sun god and receives the law. All of it is still here, still alive, still woven into the fabric of the world you move through. And now we slow down. We've traveled so far tonight, across thousands of miles and thousands of years. We've walked through the first cities, listened to the first stories, watched the first scribes press their reeds into wet clay. We've climbed the ziggurat in our minds, and looked out from its height over the flat, river-crossed plains of ancient Mesopotamia. We've done a lot. And now we can rest. Let your body soften into the surface beneath you. Feel it. Feel the weight of your limbs, the heaviness of your head, the gentle rise and fall of your breath. Somewhere in the south of modern Iraq, in a quiet place called Tel Abu Sharain, there is an archaeological mound. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't look like much from a distance, just a low hill rising from the flat plain, like a swelling in the earth. But beneath that mound, or in the ruins visible on its surface, are the remains of Eridu, the first city. 7,000 years ago, people walked across that same flat earth. People who were, in nearly every biological sense, exactly like you. The same nervous system. The same sleep rhythms. The same need for warmth and food and rest and connection. They lay down at night, those people, on reed mats or woolen blankets in their small mud brick rooms. With the sounds of the river nearby, and the stars visible through a small opening in the wall or through the open roof of a summer courtyard. They breathed slowly, as the heat of the day faded. They let their thoughts drift. They fell asleep. 7,000 years ago. The same bodies. The same night. The same drift toward unconsciousness that you are drifting toward right now. There is a continuity in that, across all the centuries and all the change. The human animal returns to sleep, every night, in every culture, in every era. The great machinery of the body, the slow drop in cortisol, the rise of melatonin, the cooling of the core temperature, the shift of brain waves from the alert beta of wakefulness to the longer, slower rhythms of drowsiness and sleep, all of it is ancient. All of it has been happening for as long as there have been human beings. You are, right now, doing something that was done in the royal palace of Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. That was done in the scribal schools of ancient UR. That was done in the reed houses of the first settlers on the banks of the Euphrates, before there was writing, before there were cities, before there was history. You are falling asleep. Let that be. Let the images of Mesopotamia drift through your mind now, soft and gentle, like clay tablets floating downstream. The brown water of the river, wide and slow. The date palms along the bank, their fronds moving gently. The smell of bread baking in a clay oven, somewhere in the narrow streets. The sound of a reed flute in the evening, someone playing, not very far away, a simple, winding melody. The stars appearing, one by one, in the darkening sky above the flat plain. A scribe in a small room, bending over a wet clay tablet by the light of an oil lamp, pressing careful marks with a reed stylus. The sound of it, a small, soft pressing. The tablet being set aside to dry. A child asleep on a rooftop, wrapped in a wool blanket, the warm night air around them, the stars above. A priest in a temple courtyard, ending the evening prayers, bowing his head in the silence after the last hymn. The river at night, moving without hurry. Brown and deep and slow, carrying the sediment of mountains toward the sea. Just carrying things. Gently. Without effort. From where they were to where they were going. Let your mind do that now. Let it carry its thoughts, gently, without effort. From wakefulness to sleep. From one shore to another. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that sleep was a gift from the gods. The god of wisdom, Enki, was also associated with the refreshing quality of water and sleep. There was a sense that in sleep, the boundary between the human world and the divine world became thinner, that in dreams, the gods could communicate what they could not say in waking life. The dream was sacred. Gilgamesh, in his epic, receives important dreams at key moments. The goddess Ninsun, his divine mother, interprets his dreams for him, sitting in the first light of morning, reading the images he has seen in the night as one might read a letter from the gods. We still believe something about dreams, don't we? Something lingers in us, even in our scientific age, even knowing the neuroscience of REM sleep and memory consolidation, a sense that the dreaming mind is doing something important. That the images that come to us in sleep carry some kind of meaning, even if we can't always decipher it. The ancient Mesopotamians just made it explicit. The god sends the dream. The dream carries the message. The wise person attends to their dreams. So attend to yours, tonight. Let whatever images come, come. Let the waters of ancient rivers run through your sleeping mind. The cuneiform signs are pressed into the clay. The clay is drying in the warm air of a Mesopotamian afternoon. Somewhere in the city, a hymn is being sung. The voice is low, rhythmic, unhurried. The words are in Sumerian, a language nobody has spoken for thousands of years, and they rise and fall in a slow, meditative pattern. The ziggurat stands at the center of the city. At its peak, in the small shrine at the top, a lamp burns. It has been burning since before the sun went down. It will burn through the night, a point of light visible for miles across the dark plain, a signal to the gods that the people are here, that the worship continues, that the city is alive and watchful. But in the houses below the ziggurat, the families are asleep. The merchants have closed their stalls. The scribes have set down their styluses. The weavers have left their looms. The farmers have come in from the fields. The fishermen have drawn their nets and tied their boats along the bank. The city is quiet. The river moves. The stars turn slowly overhead. A dog sleeps in the shadow of a doorway. A cat sits on a warm brick wall, watching the dark street with the ancient patience of cats. And somewhere in the city, in a small, cool room, on a reed mat, beneath a wool blanket, a person is dreaming. We don't know what they're dreaming. We'll never know what they dreamed, the people of ancient Babylon. The dreams are the one thing that clay cannot preserve. The stories, the laws, the accounts, all of those we have. But the dreams dissolved with the bodies, and the minds, and the private interior life of every person who has ever lived and died in those ancient river cities. They dreamed, and they woke, and they lived their days, and they dreamed again. And we live our days, and we dream again. And there is something in that repetition, the endless turning of the wheel of sleep and waking, across all the generations of humanity, that is itself a kind of peace. You are very comfortable now. You have been through so much tonight, through thousands of years of human history, through the rise and fall of the world's first civilization, through the birth of writing and law and mathematics and astronomy and poetry and medicine and trade, through all the extraordinary, patient, hopeful, flawed, beautiful work of a civilization that built something out of nothing but river mud and the slow accumulation of human intelligence. And now it's time to rest. Let the images soften. Let the cuneiform signs blur and fade. Let the ziggurat recede into the distance. Let the Euphrates move, slow and quiet, in the darkness. Let the stars of ancient Babylon, the same stars, the same sky, the same slow turning, will overhead in silence. Let the hymns grow faint. Let the city sleep. The clay tablets are in museums now. In London, and Paris, and Berlin, and New York, and Chicago, and Baghdad. In cases, carefully controlled temperature and humidity. Labeled and catalogued and studied by scholars who have learned, letter by letter, the dead language pressed into them thousands of years ago. But sometimes, when the museum is quiet and the lights are low, you can stand in front of one of those cases and look at the tablet inside, small, brown, covered in those tiny wedge-shaped marks, and feel something that is very hard to put into words. A continuity. A recognition. The sense that the person who pressed those marks into the wet clay was not so different from the person standing here, looking at it now. That the distance between them, 5,000 years, 100 generations, the entire rise and fall of dozens of civilizations, is real and is enormous. And is also, somehow, not as vast as it seems. The river is very quiet now. The water moves without sound, almost, the way it does in the deep of the night when the wind has dropped and the birds are still. The river carries things downstream. It has always done this. Long before the first city was built on its banks, the Euphrates was moving. Long after the last brick of Babylon dissolved back into mud, the river was moving. It moves now, carrying the snowmelt of distant mountains, carrying sediment and seeds and the reflections of stars, moving slowly toward the sea. You are drifting now. You can feel it, that beautiful, unmistakable sensation of drifting. The mind loosening its grip on wakefulness. The thoughts becoming softer, less coherent, more dreamlike. The body heavy, settled, perfectly still. This is the oldest thing you do. This drift into sleep. This surrender. Let it happen. Let the river carry you. Let the city of Babylon settle into its beautiful dream behind you, growing smaller and quieter as you move away from it, until it is just a glow on the horizon, the lights of a lamp burning at the top of a cigarette, very far away, very small. A point of light in the ancient dark. Still burning. Still there. Good night. Sleep well. You have been to the beginning of the world tonight, and you have come safely home. The river is still moving. The stars are still turning. The clay tablets are still in their cases, covered in the oldest writing ever made, waiting patiently for morning. And you are almost there. Almost there.